Well, welcome in everyone to another Mets Central show here. Breaking news, Matt will be joining shortly as the New York Mets lose Edwin Diaz to the Los Angeles Dodgers as he signs a 3-year deal at 69 million, making it 23 million AAV. And uh simply put, inexcusable. Let's start there. Inexcusable from ownership, from David Stearns. There's no excuses here for this to have happened. And I've Matt and I have definitely been people that defend Stearns the most, more than others, I should say. I've been a little more harsh than Matt has been on David Stearns, and I can't speak for him until he joins. But all I know, which right on, I am, I'll let him obviously. But all I could sit here and say is that I'm very disappointed in the work here from David Stearns and Steve Cohen because you have an owner that when he bought the team, going in his first press conference saying, "Yeah, we want to be the East Coast Dodgers," only to get bodied by the Dodgers ever since. You have a guy in David Stearns who was brought in, and the thing that we were hyped about with David Stearns coming in was you have someone that knows how to work with a small budget to find the diamonds in the rough. Now you give him a bigger budget to pair the tools of being able to fill in the margins plus spending the big bucks. And you let the best closer in the game walk until we find out. And I will say this until we find out if this is the case that Diaz didn't let the Mets match and he signed in silence. Sure, you could give the benefit of the doubt slightly more to Stearns and Cohen, but to me, it never should have got to that point. To me, if you were willing to give Devin Williams a guaranteed 3 years, give Edwin a guaranteed 4. If you're willing to give Devin Williams the money that you gave him, go the extra mile to keep Edwin because the unfortunate news is the Mets are not the Dodgers. The Mets are going to have to outbid the Dodgers by a decent amount because of the way this organization is reflected at the moment. Until they have championships to back it up, if they get there, the Dodgers are just going to be the attractive destination. And the fact that the Mets were not willing to go the extra mile to retain the best closer in the game is absolutely inexcusable to me. Matt, I'll let you jump in and give your thoughts.
Shocked. I woke up to the news and I was just like, what? Yeah, listen, this sucks. I'm not gonna sit here beat around the bush. Obviously, I need more information to come out first before I make any sort of judgment on Steve Cohen, David Stearns. Maybe some people will say that I'm wrong for that. I want to see every bit of information that comes out about this situation because there's just for me, and again, this is me personally, I don't believe that the Mets would offer Devin Williams a 3-year deal at around $51 million a year, but then they wouldn't want to offer Edwin Diaz more than 3 years. If you don't want to offer the 5th year, okay, sure. I don't agree with that personally. I would have went the 5th year. I just don't believe that the Mets wouldn't at least go for 4 years. That is just my personal standpoint, and that's what I believe in. To me, this screams of maybe Diaz didn't want to be here, which I do. Do I have information on that? No, I do not. But it just I'm shocked by this. I'm shocked because it's like what you said. If Diaz wanted to come back here for 3 years at this price of $69 million, and the Mets didn't want to do that, okay, yes, then I'm going to be pissed off at Steve Cohen and David Stearns. Maybe not even so much Steve Cohen. Steve Cohen wouldn't want to do that. I believe he would want to shell out the money. My anger would then more go towards David Stearns because it's like this is the best bullpen arm in the game. This is the best closer in the game. Like you tell me you don't want to shell out that type of money for Edwin Diaz. So my anger would be more towards David Stearns for that personally, if that was the case. But like I said, I want to see more information come out. Like, did Diaz want to be here? Because I'm sorry, like for now, as we sit here, this screams that like Diaz got this offer from the Dodgers, and he didn't take this back for the Mets because to me, I just don't see a scenario. I don't see a world where the Mets wouldn't at least go one more year over to the 4 year or maybe a 4+1 year option. Like I don't see it personally. Maybe it is the case, but like I said, I want to see more information come out about this, and we probably will over the next couple hours, over the next couple days, maybe. And then I'll make my final assessment on where my anger lies with either Steve Cohen or David Stearns. Until then, I'm just like I said at the beginning, I'm shocked that this is the case because I thought he was coming back.
Yeah, especially because we got reports, I think, from Michael Marino last night that the Mets are. There was that report that the Mets are, potentially in a better position to land Diaz, or he said something about how it was like optimistic, more on the optimistic front that he would come back, and then this happens legit the next day. And I don't know, like my problem is that to me the Mets should have offered the 4 years at least up front. That's where I have a hard time defending Stearns, because if you're giving Devin Williams 3 years, like I said, why are you not willing to go one extra year on Edwin to keep him? Like, that's the part that I have a hard time with. It's one thing, again, if the Mets offered the 4 years, and again, we'll see. Maybe it comes out in an hour, maybe in a couple of days, whatever it is. Maybe it's announced that the Mets offered 4 years. And if that's the case, then I'm with every single one of you that are saying it. I will not blame Stearns. I will not blame Cohen in that regard. At that point, just on Edwin that he had a preference. But for right now, it is hard to look at this other than the Mets cheaped out on keeping him. Like, I can't view it otherwise. And honestly, the problem is, given all the reports that we've got, I have a hard time believing they offered 4 years. I have a hard time believing they came close to the dollar amount that they needed to keep him. I refuse to believe that they did all that, given what Stearns has done throughout his tenure. Sorry, like I can't give him the benefit of the doubt just because of that until there is news suggesting otherwise. And yes, I guess the silver lining is they get a draft pick out of this. But to me, like the biggest problem is with Pete Alonso, I didn't care as much if you lost him because there are viable options to replace him. With Diaz, there was no option to replace him unless you traded. The only thing that came close to me was if you traded for Mason Miller last year, which the Mets didn't have the ammo to do it, or if they traded for Johan Duran last year, which they probably could have done, but they probably didn't want to give up the prospects to do it, and they went for the quantity of relievers over the quality. And that, in hindsight as well, does not look great, which I will say, though, at the time, I was more in favor of the quantity than the quality. So I don't want to sit here and act like I'm playing revisionist history entirely.
Yeah, I mean, listen, right now, the only other way to replace what you're going to get from Edwin Diaz, I know people are not going to like this, but it's the Moneyball quote. You got to replace him to the aggregate, right? If you're not spending $23 million a year on Edwin Diaz, you got to spread that money out now on other top relievers. I know Pete Fairbanks has been in the rumors. Robert Suarez is also in the rumors. There was also a report last night that the Mets are interested in, well, both the Mets and Yankees are interested in trading for Trevor McGill, Tyler McGill's brother from the Milwaukee Brewers. And we know how good of a closer / reliever he's been over there in Milwaukee. So if that's the case, and at first I thought maybe that report was, okay, maybe the Mets want to just build like this super ultra bullpen, with bringing back Diaz, having Williams, tagging them along with Brooks Raley and AJ Minter. Maybe that was just they had a feeling that Diaz was going to pick the Dodgers, and they're already kind of surfacing out and looking at other options. But now, I mean, you have no excuse. Like, you, with no Edwin Diaz now, you need to make sure this bullpen from top to bottom is stacked. Like, there needs to be no holes in this bullpen. So like I said, whether that's signing Pete Fairbanks on like a 2-3 year deal, whether that's signing Robert Suarez on a deal, which to me then, and I don't know, maybe if the Diaz market or signing impacts this, because I know Robert Suarez was at least looking for like a 4-year deal, but to me, if Diaz is only getting 3 years, there's no way that Robert Suarez is getting anything more than 3 years as well. Considering that he's also a lot older than Edwin Diaz, I think maybe by 2 or 3 years. So I don't know. Maybe the Mets decide to go there, and like I said, I, I don't know who else is available in the trade market, but if a guy like Trevor McGill is available, then you have to go all out and get Trevor McGill because again, he's been one of the better relievers in all of baseball. And like I said, now there's no excuse. Listen, like I said at the top, guys, I'm shocked that we're here because I thought Diaz was coming back. Like especially after the Williams signing and the fact that we saw that the Mets deferred, some money in Williams' deal. I'm like, okay, they probably deferred some money here because they want to give more money to Diaz up front. And like I said, after that, I thought Diaz was coming back, but yeah, 3 years, $69 million. It's I'm shocked we're here.
Yeah, I'm disappointed. Let me get to the comments. Ray saying Stearns is Alderson 2.0. Honestly, though, I mean Alderson never really had good ownership to help him out. Not that I'm, defending Sandy, but in that regard. But yeah, I mean, again, I'm very disappointed in Stearns, at least at this moment, until we see news that could tell me that this was out of the Mets' control. Because other than that, this is just again inexcusable. And yeah, I mean, again, maybe it was matched, but I can't blame Edwin if at the end of the day, if it was matched and he had an opportunity of going to the Dodgers or staying here. I'm sorry, all of us are choosing to go to the back-to-back world champions, or at least most of us are. So again, to me, it was about the fact that there was no reason to not go the extra mile. I was okay with the Mets giving 5 years on Edwin if it took that. That's where my frustration comes in the most, is that I really thought just give him the 5 years, and to not even seeming to give him 4. That's where it's like I just don't understand what went on here. It's different of Edwin Diaz just didn't want to be a Met and wanted to chase a ring. But if he did want to, this Will Pong levels are bad. Again, completely agree there. And the problem is, like I said before, I lean towards the Mets cheaped out above anything else, just given what we've seen from David Stearns so far as the Pobo and GM. Hate losing Diaz. Stearns turning this into Milwaukee. Well, imagine my surprise, the Dodgers. I'm all in favor for a salary cap at this rate. I mean, this is part of why we're going to see a lockout next year, is stuff like this happening. Juan Soto's years are going to be wasted during a rebuild. We'll see on that one. Because I don't know where the hell they pivot. I mean, they could get Suarez, they could get Fairbanks, they could get McGill. You weren't replacing Edwin. Like, that's really the bottom line, and that's where it's the most frustrating above all else, is there was no replacing what Edwin is. Diaz wants to play for the Dodgers, nothing you can do. Again, if that's the case, then I agree there. I completely agree there, but I need to see a report suggesting that before I could buy into that. Sleepy Stearns at it again, but don't worry, guys. We'll have a casino at Citi Field in 5 years. I bet Stearns cheaped out. Bring Pete back now that Schwarber's off the market. I mean, that's another thing that got to get into as well. Schwarber staying, this news bundled up within minutes of each other really freaking hurt, because I started to get my hopes up that maybe the Mets were making a legit push for Kyle Schwarber, and then he ends up going back to Philly, which sucks. Reed, thank you. Appreciate it. Still back part-time. When news breaks like this, I want to jump on the show, though, for sure. Just because I get the itch, definitely, to talk about these sort of things. Mets have yet to make a big signing in the next 72 hours. You essentially have a blank check. Otherwise, it's unacceptable. I mean, with the winter meetings, yeah, they should be. You got to replace Edwin soon, because the reliever market, now that Edwin's off the board, it's going to keep moving quicker and quicker. So they definitely have to sign again. It sucks to say replacement because you're not replacing what Edwin was, but for lack of a better term, replace Edwin Diaz. You have to replace him within the next few hours here. I don't know if there's a trade piece where the Mets could look instead, but we'll look into that as well as we're going on throughout the show. Just again, I was not prepared for this. I'm stunned. I both of us said it when Devin Williams signed. We both really felt confident they were going to keep Edwin. Like that's also why I'm so caught off guard right now because we also saw reports that maybe the Dodgers weren't as
Yeah.
serious about pursuing him as we initially thought. So I thought, okay, the Mets are in the clear and there's no reason for him not to be back. And here we are.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. It's like because again, like you said, we had the rumors that maybe the Dodgers weren't interested or not interested, but maybe they were priced out, which again is kind of hard to believe because the Dodgers just have infinite money that they could just pull out of their ass. And then, like I said, we heard the rumors that it was kind of maybe just the Mets and the Blue Jays, which in that case, and I get the Blue Jays also have a lot of money, and they're probably going to sign Kyle Tucker since the rumors have been there. But yeah, I like you said, I thought especially after Devin Williams signed, and we got the news that the Mets deferred money in that deal as well, so they weren't paying him all the money up front. Like I said earlier, I thought, oh, maybe because they deferred money in that deal, they're going to give him more money to Diaz up front, but that didn't happen. And again, like you said, I want to know more information, like because I just off the surface front, yeah, this whole situation seems bad from top to front. Like that I cannot defend. Like if you let Diaz walk and he was willing to come back for 3 years, $69 million, a 23 million AAV, and you decide to let him walk, yeah, that's bad. There's no defending that whatsoever. I need to see more information to come out before I make any final assessment because I don't know. It just seems too straightforward at this point for me. I don't know, but maybe it is the case, and if that is the case, then there will be a lot of blame that is handed down because that cannot happen. You cannot lose Edwin Diaz and not be willing to at least match that deal that he got from the Dodgers. Because even like you can't even use the state income tax thing because California and New York are just as bad as one another. So you can't use that excuse. So I want to see more information before I make a final judgment and assessment on this whole situation.
My problem is that if they weren't willing to go the extra mile for Edwin, now you're going to lose leverage when you're trying to acquire a Suarez or a Fairbanks. So it's like, yeah, you saved money by not signing Edwin, sure, but like, wouldn't you rather have just gone the extra mile to keep him than now you're probably going to overpay for Suarez or Fairbanks? Like, and just looking at the options, my goodness, there is like nothing on the trade market, at least that we know is available. Like Carlos Estevez, you could maybe acquire. I'm really not interested in all that. You, if like the only viable option that could potentially open up is if by some miracle, which I don't even think it's going to happen, Emmanuel Clase is reinstated into the league and
Yeah,
then
it's not
the
that's
free agent. But I'm not even going to chop that up like that's a realistic conversation. Like that's playing pretend 101 right there. The only other option, like you could get Felix Bautista maybe, but he's always injured. So is that a viable option even? Like it's bad. There's really not a lot out there unless you trade for Trevor McGill. Like I guess that was the only other option outside of Fairbanks and Suarez. Like that's legit about it. Because even next year's free agent market is really bad with the relief market. Yeah, like just looking through even that, because I'm trying to find trade options based on who becomes free agent soon. And it sucks because there's just there's really nothing. Like the only viable option would have been getting Duran or Miller at the deadline, and obviously that doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, I mean, just because I'm going through Fangraphs' bullpen things, and yeah, I mean, other than Trevor McGill, there's really nothing else out there, unless like we're just not knowing that someone is secretly available. But I mean, just even look at it, because even the top names like that you at least be interested in. I know you mentioned Carlos Estevez, which I mean, would I mind Estevez? No, but like compared to Edwin Diaz, like that's not really gonna satisfy me. I mean, like again, the Guardians have options and Kate Smith, but the Guardians are going to be looking to compete, so they're not trading Kate Smith, and
Yeah.
especially since they just lost freaking what's his name, Emmanuel Clase. They're definitely not trading him. The Mariners are not moving anybody. Yeah,
The
there's
only other
just
options are like Kenley Jansen on the market, and
I don't want
I'm
Kenley
good.
Jansen.
I'm good off that. Like,
This is not 2017. I'm good. I don't want Kenley Jansen.
I wouldn't put it past Stearns though to freaking try to revive the corpse of like Jordan Romano or some bullshit. I mean, Evan Phillips is intriguing coming off an injury. If he's anything like he was before his injury, that would satisfy me. I'm not saying that it's Edwin Diaz levels of good production from Evan Phillips at his best, but it's at least an option. Like I guess.
Well, but this is the thing now. It's like you need to stack up as much depth now in this bullpen as possible, because
Yeah.
you're not. It doesn't matter who you bring in, unless like you bring in somebody and you just magically revive them, and they have like an Aroldis Chapman level of like year like that he had last year. Like you're not going to replace Edwin Diaz just one for one. It has to be, you have to build out as deep of a bullpen as possible now. Like that is the only way. And at least like listen, I won't, not that I won't love having a deep bullpen, because everyone loves having a deep bullpen. Will it suck? It won't be the same that you have like an almost automatic closer in the ninth inning as Edwin Diaz. Yes, but you at least will have a more reliable bullpen from top to bottom, which is, again, do you want Edwin Diaz? Sure, but I'll also take the reliability of having a bullpen from top to bottom. So I pretty much know that, okay, at least when this guy comes in, he's reliable. When this guy comes in, he's reliable. And if this guy comes in, he's reliable. But we'll see what happens, because as of right now, where this bullpen stands, aside from Devin Williams, AJ Minter, Brooks Raley, it's not looking too great, because you need at least, I mean, what if you're gonna have a bullpen 7 or 8 guys? You need at least 5 to 4 more guys. And then obviously, like I said, if that's trading for Trevor McGill, if that's signing a Pete Fairbanks, Robert Suarez, okay, that's 2 guys, but you still need 3 more guys. I don't know where that's going to come from, but I guess, but that's not my job to figure that out. That's David Stearns' job.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like n- now you have to bring in quantity. Like that I guess that's really what the bottom line is. Like it was either you have the quality of Diaz or you get the quantity now, and I mean to me there's really no excuse to not land at least one of Suarez or Fairbanks. To me, you should be trying to land both at this point. Now that you lost out on Edwin, um, I mean, like, there's a couple of relievers to fill out the lower leverage part of the pen, but it's just like again, I can't even cope with the fact of the quantity because no one is getting these high leverage outs the way that Edwin did. Like it's just that simple, and that's why even if Edwin wanted to go to LA more, you had to make an offer up front, even that Edwin couldn't refuse at all, or at least made the decision a lot tougher because this is just inexcusable. I mean, unless Aber Alzolay is anything like he was before injury, too, like, sure, that's another arm, but who are you trusting to get these high leverage outs outside of again, maybe Devin Williams, but he was better when he was in a little bit of lower leverage, more medium leverage last year. AJ Minter has been injured, so like jury's kind of out on that. Brooks Raley, sure, I trust him to get some big outs against some of the top lefties, but I just again I don't know what you're doing here. Even if you fill this out with a bunch of quantity, the problem is after seeing the way the deadline went, it's hard for me to sell myself that the quantity is going to be good enough because we just saw how much this bullpen sucked when you were trying to count on Helsley to get some big outs for you, when you were trying to count on um Rogers to get some big outs for you, when you were trying to rely on Gregory Soto to get big outs for you. I cannot sell myself. Even if they bring in Suarez, I will be I can't say I'll be happy about it, but I'll be content with it. I'll feel better about the bullpen, I guess you could say. But
Oh,
I'm not gonna sit
that's
here and play pretend and convince myself that all of a sudden this is the guy that's gonna get those big outs.
yeah, that's not a good look. Mets' offer for Edwin Diaz was 3 years, $66 million with modest deferrals from Joel Sherman. Yeah, that's not good.
Inexcusable. Inexcusable. Yeah, that put the nail in the coffin for me. That there's no defending this.
No, no, you can't defend that. That's bad.
I'm speechless. Like the fact that you got outbid when you probably didn't have. And again, I don't want to hear that. Oh, but maybe Edwin didn't circle back to the Mets. To me, you give, like I said, for this entire show, you give him an offer up front that he makes it a tough decision at the very least. You go the extra year, you go an extra few $1,000,000.
Yeah, and then this was again from Joel Sherman. Mets expressed that there was wiggle room to go higher, but Diaz went to the Dodgers. So maybe Diaz looked at it and said, if you really wanted me that much, you should have hired or you should have offered more upfront, like you said, Evan. And he just said, you know what, I'm going to the Dodgers. Which in that case, like uh, good for him. Good for him because he got the more money and he went to the team coming off back-to-back World Series. So I can't blame him on that one personally.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel the way Nico does that. Both parties are honestly at fault, if you will. I mean, again, I can't blame Edwin for choosing what's better for his career and his family because probably more attractive in general for him to be out in LA for his family and everything. But I don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, listen, now I mean you have to go big elsewhere on this team. Like fine, okay, Diaz is not back. Can't do anything about it now. It's done with. It's over with. But now, like we said earlier, you got to fill out this bullpen with a lot of depth. Make sure it's reliable from top to bottom, and you have to go big spending elsewhere on the team because I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like you have to go out there. You have to acquire an ace type player. Whether it's Tarek Skubal or not, that depends on whether the Tigers want to trade him. But if not, you need to go out there. You have to go acquire a guy like Freddie Peralta, get Trevor McGill in that same deal. If it costs you a lot of if it costs you prospects, so you know what, that's the deal of doing a deal to try to win a World Series. I'm sorry, you have to go do that deal if it's possible, and then you got to go get a big bat, whether it's bringing back Pete Alonso, whether it's signing Cody Bellinger. Obviously, Kyle Schwarber's off the market. That would have been a guy that I would have loved to get. I know you too, Evan. You would have loved to get a guy like Kyle Schwarber. If it's trading for Byron Buxton, even though the Twins don't really want to sell, which I don't understand why, but okay, fine, that's your decision. You have to go out elsewhere and improve this team in dramatic fashions elsewhere because as of right now, this team is not good enough to compete next year. Okay, sure, they'll finish over 500, but that's not the goal. That has never been the goal,
I mean,
especially with
on
the new.
paper, this is not a five. This is not an above 500 team, in my opinion. At least, I would argue that's not. Because I mean, they got 83 wins last year. You subtract the best closer in the game. You don't have Pete Alonso, which obviously, again, I'm not saying that they're not going to replace a guy like Alonso or anything, but like you don't currently, as the Mets are situated right now, they're not a 500 team. That with how many holes there are, because you need to at least get 2 starters, which there was a report that they're listing the offers on Peterson too. So maybe even a third starter because I don't know. Like, are you moving Senga? Because is that why Peterson's out there? Are you now keeping Senga? And that's what that's about? That now Peterson's the guy that you want to try to cash in on? You don't have, I mean, half your bullpen, more than half your bullpen's not good enough. And then most of this lineup isn't good enough. Like, I really just don't know what to say. This is just brutal. I mean, Gore, sure, would be a good fit, but I don't know how much in division tax they'd have to pay, to be honest with you. But I definitely, I definitely would like them to acquire guys with control on them. I mean, I could tell you that because to go through this shit is so annoying. Like, there are exceptions to me still. If you could get Scooble, whatever, give up the prospects to get him. But man, this fucking sucks.
Yeah, and it sucks, especially considering that yesterday was the 1 year of Soto signing, and again, I'm not saying that Soto. I think Soto is the more elite talent. I know you can't really compare position player to closing pitcher, but it's like now it's like you kind of feel how the Yankees felt when they lost Juan Soto, and even to me, at least I don't know how you felt about this one. This kind of, to me at least, this stings more than losing Degrom, which I know some people might consider that crazy, but again, like looking at what Degrom was coming off of, especially with the injuries and the fact that inevitably he needed Tommy John surgery, and looking at the contract that he got from the Rangers, I was more all right with letting Degrom walk. Oh, what the fuck did my camera go out? But yeah, this stings a lot more because that's a contract that you should have been matching compared to what the Grom got from the Rangers.
Yeah, there is no reason not to. And yeah, fuck Eric Chavez. I just saw his Instagram story. Fuck that guy. He's an absolute clown. Um, let's see. Yeah, we talked about what the Mets offered, and again, I like the fact that said they were willing to go more. This is where again I fault both parties for it not working out because the Mets did offer to go more, but at the same time, why were you not giving him a 4th year to begin with? Like you gave Devin Williams 3 years to me. How do you not give the best in the game a guaranteed 4th year off the jump? Like you have to go out of your comfort zone sometimes, and that's the difference between keeping a guy, losing a guy, signing a guy, not signing a guy. Like sometimes you have to go out of your comfort zone. And again, I'm okay with it with certain situations. If this was the Pete Alonso situation, I would get not going out of your comfort zone too much because there's viable replacements. This is just like we just went over guys that are potentially going to replace Edwin. And we all want to barf at the idea that any of these guys are going to be closing games for this team next year. And yeah, I mean, there's another point. It's like your pitching struggled to begin with last year, and you're not willing to go out of your comfort zone to keep the best pitcher on your staff. Like that's just again inexcusable. I'm sorry. Like if people want to defend Stearns and Cohen, you do you because of the fact that the Mets technically did say they would up their offer. I sure again, if you want to go that route, you can. But to me, they should have went out of their comfort zone off the jump.
Yeah, I can't. I can't defend this personally just because they didn't start with 4 years. Like I thought that was a given that you were at least going to start with 4 years, and whether you wanted to go 5 years, like to me, I know both of us would have went 5 years from Diaz. Obviously, if it would have went higher, like 6 years, then I was a bit skeptical and a bit hesitant. But the fact that you could even start at 4 years, and I know that the report just came out that they would have possibly went higher and they were a little comfortable going higher. But if that was the case, why didn't you just start off at 4 years? And like, and listen, I get that. Okay, like it's a negotiation and stuff, and you want to get the best deal for yourself. But when you're dealing with the best clothes from the game, wouldn't you at least want to give yourself a bit more of a comfort, like a comfort barrier? At least start a little bit higher than maybe what you were trying to, at least be a little more comfortable with what you were going with originally. Like, like to me, the fact that they didn't start with 4 years, I mean, that's bad management all around. And again, I'm not in the negotiating rooms, so I don't know what was being discussed. But to me, you had to at least start with 4 years. Like, especially if you were going to give Devin Williams 3 years. Like, I'm sorry, like that's inexcusable.
That's the problem that I have of this all is like if you, Devin Williams was signed for 2 years, sure, I would like maybe I still wouldn't understand it, but I'd be a little more understanding if it was 4 years and the Dodgers matched the 4 years and the Mets, didn't want to go five. I'd be a little more understanding. But just given the context that we've laid out this entire show, I can't convince myself or justify any of this because it's not like the Mets are committed to a lot of long-term contracts now. I mean, you got out of Brandon Nimmo for a reason, which should have gave you some wiggle room to which sure you could argue that's part of why that they didn't want to go the extra year with Edwin that oh, you get rid of Nimmo and then you're essentially just adding him back for that extra year. Sure, you can make that argument, but to me, it's like if you open that avenue, the only contracts you'd have on the books after these next 3 years, at least as of right now, would be Soto, Lindor, Diaz. And Diaz would be on the last year of his deal on that contract. Lindor would have, I think, 2 years left on his deal at that point. So is it really that much of an issue? Like, I don't know.
The more we talk about this, the more it's just the more it's unacceptable. Because I mean, you're not tied up to any long term deals apart from Lindor and Soto.
Yeah.
And, and again, maybe it's this them looking. It's like, okay, we're gonna go all out big game hunting. Not in terms of because obviously I'm looking more of this from like a schoolable point of view. Maybe do they would rather save a bit more money in the bullpen and say we're going to commit $40 million plus to a guy like Tarek Skubal next year, which okay, that's fine, but you better go out and get him. Like and again, it's like I would say that's a guarantee, but with the fucking Dodgers, you never know about that. So you better go out trade for him if he's available. And I'm not saying sign to an extension because he's going to hit free agency regardless. But if you're saving money now on Edwin Diaz, like there better be no excuses that you're not going to go all out and offer a big time deal to a guy like fucking Tarek Skubal when he's available next year on the market. Like there's just no excuse for that.
That's the problem, though, in general. Like, you go out of your comfort zone for some of the best in the game. And if you're willing to for Scooble, I mean, to me, again, Diaz was in that category because, for my money, he is the best closer in the game. You could argue Mason Miller, you could argue Yohan Duran in that category. But to me, it was Edwin. Um, that's where I'm just frustrated. And that's also what it's also hard to defend and say, when your owner says, I want to be the East Coast Dodgers. And, I think people take that out of context because you shouldn't tie yourself to stupid contracts. But to me, this wasn't a ridiculous contract. And you know what the Dodgers do at times? They go out of their comfort zone. I'm sure that they didn't want to give Edwin Diaz this contract after signing Tanner Scott, but they recognize, okay, we have a massive hole in the back end of our bullpen, even though we just won the World Series. We had to use Roki Sasaki as our closer. We have a massive hole at the closer role. We're going to go out of our comfort zone. And even though it sucks to pay Tanner Scott $18 million and Edwin Diaz $23 million, we're going to do what it takes to win. That's where it's hard to defend Cohen in this regard, because I'd imagine he had some sort of say in this. I mean, if he didn't and Stearns didn't, ask Cohen about going a fourth year or anything, then we have bigger problems here with David Stearns not communicating well enough with Cohen in that regard. But I don't know. Like, to me, it's just you got to go out of your comfort zone sometimes, and this was just one of those times they should have.
Yeah, I'm not even sure. Well, actually, no, I don't want to say that because looking at this right now, my blame is more on David Stearns and Steve Cohen because even just looking at more of the facts of where, because when you look at the contract that Steve Cohen has given out in his tenure of being Mets owner, like the guy was willing to go 3 years for Max Scherzer, who was like 37, 36 years old, and then he was willing to give like a 38-year-old, 37-year-old Justin Verlander 2 years. So when what Edwin Diaz is what 32 years old,
31 or 32.
Yeah, let me see. Of course, you just can't give me the age right off the bat. Fucking Google. Yeah, he's 31 years old. He's going to be 32 in March 22nd. So to me, it's like if you're, and I get it's different starting pitcher compared to closing pitcher, but even like I can't even say that in situation because those guys are fucking ancient fossils, and I know they're fucking great pitchers, and they're going through the Hall of Fame eventually. They're first ballot Hall of Famers, but to me, if you're willing to give like 2 to 3 year deals for those type of pitchers, but then a 31-year-old Edwin Diaz, you don't want to go more than 3 years. Like to me, unless Steve Cohen was just kind of he learned and was scared off the fact that those deals necessarily didn't work out. But then even again, it's like it's different context because you knew that there was a risk giving those type of age or that type of contract to that old of a pitcher that deal wasn't necessarily going to work out with Edwin Diaz. And okay, sure, like injuries could play a part. Like I'm not going to sit here and say that, but to me, you can't really compare the two in terms of contract wise because again, those guys were like 37 years old. Edwin Diaz is going to be 32 years old come opening day. It's like to me, I have a hard time believing that Steve Cohen was the one that didn't want to go over the top a little bit because, especially like again, just look at the fact that the guy gave Juan Soto a 15-year deal last year. It's like to me, this more or less is just David Stearns didn't want to go the extra year. Which, if that's the case, then he has to take a lot of blame on this. Like, there's no defending that.
And the other thing I want to even add to that is, we're talking about how he might age and everything. There's I can't sit here and say Edwin Diaz would age poorly by the fourth year. I mean, there are so many relievers. Look at what Aroldis Chapman did. And how old is he? 37, 38 right now? Look at what Kenley Jansen's still going out there. And yeah, he's not what he once was. And sure, the last year of Edwin Diaz might be an overpay, but I still would expect him to be productive at least on the last year of that contract. Look at the way Brooks Raley was hooping out of the pen this past year. Like, and I get we're talking about different pitching styles with some of these guys, but like Edwin's velo already isn't really what it was the first few years. Like we talked about it all year that his velo sat more around 94, 95. When he was first with the Mets, he was chucking 100 consistently, and his slider was like closer to what his fastball velo is now, like 92, 93 range. So the velo already dropped and he still was effective. Why are you worried about the idea of him not being good towards the end of this contract? To me, if anything, I wouldn't have had any of those worries with Edwin, considering what he's doing right now with the velo drop. Like, are they concerned it's going to drop more? Sure. I mean, if that's a concern, fine. But again, I still would expect him to be productive at the very least in that last year of the contract.
Yeah, because I mean, even what you just said, I just Aroldis Chapman is 37 years old, and he's still going out there chucking heat. And I get like what we were saying that Diaz's velo has dropped a little bit since originally he came here in 2019, but even then he's kind of adapted though because he's kind of sat off less fastballs, and even then his fastball is still dangerous. Like it's still one of the best pitches in Major League Baseball. But even then, he adapted a little more and started going a little bit more slider, and he started getting a bit more swing and miss in that point of in that point of view. So again, like I don't know. Do they feel that Diaz's velo is going to drop a little bit more? Is there maybe do they have like inside knowledge of maybe a high term injury risk? That I don't know. That I don't know because we're not we don't have the ability to look at medical records, but I don't know. I'm shocked and confused right now because this is just and a little bit pissed off because you can't let that happen, especially on this contract, 3 years. I don't know.
Yeah, I just no matter how much I try in my head to rationalize this, there's nothing I could do to sit here and rationalize this from the Mets perspective. There's not. Let me get some more comments though, just because I'm sorry I've neglected a little bit of them. Um, Horrible communication on the Mets part concerning Diaz. I mean, we won't know how that went, but again, to me, like you should have went out of your comfort zone off the rip. That's just again the bottom line. Horrible day for the Mets. I don't want to hear Jack about Bellinger or Tucker. And fair. I mean, until we see otherwise, I get it. I get it. Can't be mad at Diaz. He doesn't want it drawn out. He has to move his family to LA and get settled. He had to get it done early. I mean, yeah, I understand it from his perspective. And again, the idea that, even if the Mets were willing to match that offer, would you rather go play for the team that just won back-to-back World Series, or would you rather stay here after the Mets just missed the playoffs and collapsed? That's where, again, go out of your comfort zone. Wolf Williams is the best bounce back player in the MLB. Freaking from your lips to God's ears is all I could say, because if that's what the hope is now, because if not, we're gonna have some big issues here. Some really big issues. Gotta remember, yes, he had a year. Uh wait, we gotta remember, yes, he had a year he did last year, but without that year, are we happy? We are left with Williams. We aren't left with Joe Schmo. And again, like the problem is like I don't have an issue with Williams. I think Williams is a good reliever. I think he's better than what the numbers were last year. But the problem is there was just no replacing Edwin. There just wasn't. And that's why I can't sit here and again, I'm sure Williams is better than what they had as any other backup option, but it still sucks. Do we think Williams will no longer be the setup guy? If I was to make a bet right now, next year's going to be closer by committee. Like it's going to be situational. Depending if they get Suarez or Fairbanks, it will maybe be either one of them. Devin Williams some days, AJ Minter some days. Raley maybe will close some games. Like that. That's what my guess is. That it's just going to be closer by
Yeah,
committee now.
yeah. Unless someone just stands out, like let's say like Devin Williams returns to what he was in 2024, 2023, 2022, then it's going to be closer by committee. If everyone's at least on the equal playing field, unless like I said, unless someone from this pack Obviously, we're going to see who else the Mets add, whether it's Pete Fairbanks, Robert Suarez. But unless someone like stands out, then it's going to be closer by committee, in my opinion, like you said, Evan.
And honestly, the worst part about that is just trying to trust Carlos Mendoza to navigate that. That's
Yeah.
a whole different conversation there. Stern seems a better fit for previous ownership. Needs to be a value contract rather than the chips all in. As of right now, can't disagree. This only makes sense if the dollars put into another star contract needle mover. And the problem is, I don't know if it will be. So you're right, but we'll see. I just saw the numbers that Diaz signed for. I'm sorry. I would expect a chunkier contract for him to go to the Dodgers. I don't think any Met fan would be mad at those numbers to keep Diaz. You're right on, Pablo. Good point. Didn't think about that. Dodgers back-to-back champions, and then the Mets. Unfortunately, it's the harsh reality, and you also have the warm weather of LA, or you have living in New York, which again, I love being in New York, but just for it is a draw to players more to live out in LA instead of New York. Like as much as I love New York personally, and I'm not Edwin though, unfortunately, to make that decision. Screw it, get Peralta and Trevor McGill. Hopefully, I don't know what the prospect haul would have to be for that, but that's what I'm hoping that they could do. Get some sort of package deal to that degree because you really need to make this bullpen deeper like that. Like we said earlier in the show, you have to have a lot of quantity compared to what you currently have in this situation.
Yeah, it's the only way now. It's the only way because there's no other option out there that's going to replace Diaz one for one. So you have to go out there and just get a shitload of quantity. Who that's going to be, we will obviously find out. But I agree with you though, like what you said earlier, like the fact that Diaz is now off the market, like the reliever market should at least go a bit quicker now. So does Fairbanks sign within the next day or two? Does Suarez sign within the next day or two? That should happen, but obviously, if it's going to be with the Mets, we'll see about that. But
One of them better
obviously,
be.
they at least need to land one of those two, and then they need to go out and trade for Trevor McGill. Again, if it's a lot of prospects, then you know what? Then that's on you if you're not comfortable with that because the option was to go out there and sign Edwin Diaz, in which you were just giving money. So it's either that. It's either you're going to give up a lot of money for Edwin Diaz, or you're gonna maybe you're not going to pay as much for Trevor McGill in terms of money wise because he's only making $6.5 million for this year, and then has 2 more years of arbitration. But you now have the risk of giving or shelling out more prospects than you are comfortable with. Which what? But then again, what are you more comfortable with? Are you comfortable with giving more money, or are you comfortable with giving more prospect capital? And if you're not, then you should have just went the higher money route to go resign Edwin Diaz, who again is a guy that's proven to be a solid, reliable closer in New York. And obviously, like I said, I think we both like Trevor McGill, but we need to see if he does come to the Mets. We need to see how he's going to react and adjust to the situation of being in the Mets bullpen because again, it's not a guarantee that you're just going to jump from Milwaukee, come to New York, and be a success. Like I said, we like Trevor McGill, we like his stuff, and he's a very good reliever. But even then, we saw Devin Williams come here last year to the Yankees, struggled a lot. And then even like with Diaz, we saw him come here in 2019, and he struggled a lot. And it took him, a little bit to just adjust. So it's not a guarantee that you're just going to get that automatic production from there. So I don't know, but they put themselves in this position now to where they have to make a decision.
Yeah, and then Helsley too last year comes here and stinks up the joint. Like, man, I'm down in the dumps. Like, the problem is, even if they give up prospects for Trevor McGill, it's like you're willing to give up like depending on what the prospect haul is, I guess. But it's like if you're giving up premier prospects for Trevor McGill, why didn't you just get Duran at the deadline this past year? Like that will be another conversation, obviously. But that was my argument for wanting to get him at the deadline. It's like then you at least if Edwin leaves, you at least have like a really good one of the top 3 closers as a fallback. Now it's like you're banking on Devin Williams to bounce back, which again, I hope so, but I need to see it obviously to believe it.
I also want to know, when we'll probably never know this, but like again, like we heard the rumors, at least from the from Joel Sherman, that the Mets are willing to go higher. What is higher? Because if it's a couple million more, we know the Dodgers are gonna be willing to match that personally, especially coming up back to back World Series. Like I said before, the Dodgers, they're in a position where they're at least allowed to, and they're a bit more comfortable to be stupider with their money compared to the where the Mets are right now. So it's like, how much is that improvement? Like, were you willing to go all out and above? Because to me, I can't really say that right now, considering that right off the rip, you weren't even willing to go to 4 years for Diaz. So again, I don't know, but if all that money's not going to Diaz, then like I said before, you have to be willing to go out there and improve other aspects of the team dramatically. Whether it's signing both Bellinger and Pete Alonso, then okay, then do that. If it's trading for Tarek Skubal, and you already have the funds the funds lined up for a massive extension for next year, then fine, that is what it is. But there, you need to go out there and now put down the hammer and really, what's it called, put that money that you saved on Diaz, you need to really invest that elsewhere into the team.
Yeah, you have to, and I can tell you now, if Pete doesn't stay, the same thing applies. If you do not replace Pete Alonso with anything good, this fan base is going to want Stearns. I'm not even gonna say what I was going to, but they're gonna want Stearns dead on the streets, for lack of a better phrase here. They're to say the least. But
Yeah,
um,
especially since Schwarber's gone now, because really that was
yeah,
the one for one replacement. So really now the Mets don't have like what's it called, a leverage point of view on Pete Alonso. So, and I know that Pete still doesn't have a great market per se. That's why he's going down to the winter meetings. But the Mets originally, in terms of leverage wise, were like this compared to Pete Alonso. Now it's shrunk a little bit because that Schwarber replacement is no longer there. So now Pete has a little bit more wiggle room in terms of leverage. I don't think it's still a lot, because other teams aren't willing, at least from the rumors point of view. Because we've heard the Red Sox are interested, we've heard the Orioles are interested, but we haven't heard any rumors that teams aren't willing to go 4 5 years, 6 years for Pete Alonso. Everything's right now in the 3 year range. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, because like I said, you don't have that Kyle Schwarber buffer anymore. So there goes your leverage on that. Maybe do you now, like I said, do you now target both Bellinger and Alonso? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
yeah, and now it's to a point where, like I don't know, like if you lose Alonso, you have to get Kyle Tucker. Like I'm sorry, it is going to be impossible to satisfy this fan base, including myself, if you lose Diaz and Alonso the same offseason and you don't replace that with a deep bullpen and a deeper lineup. You just could simply, and I said this at the start of the offseason as well, where if we're talking about prospects replacing these guys, I I have a very hard time feeling good about where this team is going, because as much as we're excited about some of these prospects, that tells me you're not trying to win right now. And it's one thing if Stearns came out publicly and said that, but it's another thing that they're trying to advertise this as a winning product, and then they run prospects out there on the diamond to supplement Soto and Lindor, which that's the biggest problem though. It's like, why you can't sit here and sell the fan base. Yeah, we're gonna, you know, keep building the farm and play the prospects instead for now. Sure, you could tell me that 2 years ago when Stearns first came in. You cannot sell me on that shit right now. You just simply cannot. Lindor does not have. He doesn't have a lot of years of being an elite player left. Like that's just simply how it is. And Juan Soto, while he's 26, You only get so many years of his prime, and if you're gonna waste that, like, I'm sorry, that's something I can't get behind, and Stearns has to go at that point.
Yeah, you can't. If again, it's like you said, if you were willing to play this, like, okay, we're gonna build through the farm, and we're gonna elevate a lot of our prospects at the major league level. Like, if you were going to do that in 2024 when Stearns came in, and that was more of a transition year, then cool. Like, I could get behind that because it's the start of a new regime, and you're kind of you want to go in a different direction. But considering that last year you just signed Juan Soto to a 15-year deal, and again, like, you only have Francisco Lindor at the top of his game for, I want to say, hopefully it's like for a while, but at least like in terms of prime Lindor, you're hoping for another 3 to 4 years of prime Lindor till he's like 35, 36. But it's like in this situation right now, it's like you can't really do that unless you're 100% sure that these prospects are going to all hit and they're all going to turn to superstar talents. But again, there's no guarantee on that because I don't care how good of a prospect does in the minor league system. There's no guarantee that he's going to come to the major league level and have that same type of impact. I listen. I hope that Carson Bench comes up here and he's freaking elite and he plays elite level, left field or center field, depending on where the team wants to play. But it's just like you can't really. It's like it's sort of like, and again, we got on the Rangers for this. It's like you're half-assing it. It's like, okay, you want to go youth, but then you also have all this elite level talent that you're paying at high level contracts. It's like you can't do both at the same time. Like, you have to pick one direction. Do you want to go all in and win, or do you want to, take your time and build through and build through your prospects and build through the prospect system? But if you're going to do that, why the hell would you give Juan Soto a 15-year deal? Like, and I get, like you said, like, he's only 26 years old and he still has and he still has a lot of years left of his prime. But why do you want to waste those prime level years of Juan Soto? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Again, I want to see. This goes along with the whole Nimmo trade thing. It's like, I want to see where this team is at the end of the offseason before I make like a, because listen, can the Mets still be a good team without Edwin Diaz? Yes, they can. Is it going to be a bit harder? Sure, it is, because there is no one-for-one replacement for Edwin Diaz and his production and his ability to go out there and give you, like, because that's the other thing about Edwin Diaz, and that's the other thing that sucks about him, is this was a guy that if you needed a 6-out save from Edwin Diaz, you knew he was going to get those 6 outs or 5 outs, 4 outs. It doesn't matter. You knew that Diaz, for the most part, because again, like, no closer is going to be 100% like reliable, but you knew for the most part when Diaz was out there, he was getting you that save. You no longer have that, that luxury of having it, unless, like I said, Devin Williams comes back and he reverts back to 2023, 2024 levels, which I hope he does. I hope he does, and I'm sure every Met fan does. But yeah, again, like I said, can the Mets still be a very good team without Edwin Diaz? Yes, they can, 100%. It's going to be a lot harder though, but that's not my job. That's not your job, Evan. That's David Stearns' job. And again, I want to see where this team lies at the end of the offseason before I make my full judgment and assessment of where this team is going to next year. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough right now. Like, I'm not going to sit here and lie. Like, as of right now, I'm not feeling great. The fact that the Mets lost Diaz to his contract, but like I said, if you're not willing to shell out that amount of money for Diaz in the bullpen, then you better be willing to shell it out elsewhere on the for the team, whether that's through the offense or through starting pitching.
Yeah, if we're sitting here in 2 months from now and the lineup is predominantly prospects and like you didn't do enough, I should say, to replace Alonso and Diaz, then I'm gonna lose my faith in Stearns. Like, it really comes down to that. Unless these prospects come up here and absolutely destroy the baseball or just dominate on the mound, whatever it may be, um, then I will apologize. But like, it's gonna be hard to trust Stearns because, like you said, of the half pregnant approach here, that it would be where it's like you have elite talent and you're paying the big bucks to these guys, but you're not supplementing it with enough to win. I just can't support that. And I can't. It's hard to get behind something where the product seems to be potentially we're banking on the ceiling of guys like they trade for Luis Robert. We're banking on him to bounce back to what he was. We're banking on these prospects to hit. Like you can't sell me that with where the state of this team is with Juan Soto on it and Francisco Lindor at this point in his career. Again, 2 years ago when Stearns first came in, I had no problem being patient and seeing, this thing get built up, but expectations change with that NLCS run and with Juan Soto coming here. The entire forecast, if you will, the projections, the map, whatever you want to say, the blueprint, I guess is the best word. The entire thing changed the moment you got to the NLCS and you signed Juan Soto. Fair or not, that's the moment it changed. And you have to act accordingly to that.
Yeah. Yeah, this is from a couple months ago, Abby Mastracco. The feeling around the Mets right now is shock. Edwin Diaz had indicated to some he wanted to return. To to me though, and again, like I get it, like we're all shocked, but this could have been avoided if you just started with 4 years. Like you didn't have to start with 3 years. Like no one said you had to, and I get you want to get the best contract possible for you, but you should have just went the guaranteed 4 years from the start, and maybe Diaz would be back here. But you played a dangerous game, and it's like Carson says all the time: you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. There you go. You tried to be a little bit smart in terms of your negotiating, but it backfired on you.
Sorry, just quote tweeting that tweet right now. But like, I don't know how you could be shocked when the ball was in your court. Like you said, like give the 4th year. And if you're that surprised and you really felt like he wanted to be here, you should have went out of your comfort zone a little more. Like, I'm sorry. I that's just that's not good enough for me that you're shocked.
Yeah, no.
That's
Like if you were like if you were offering 4 years and we got the news that the Dodgers gave him 6 years, then cool. Like by all means, be shocked because I would have been shocked too. But again, like 3 year deal when you had the ability, and again, like the rumors were that the Mets were willing to go higher for Edwin Diaz, but to me, like there's no reason to be shocked here when the negotiations were in your control because like I said and like we said from the start you could have offered 4 years from the start, you chose not to, and now we're here.
yeah. Or I'd be shocked if like I'd get the feeling of being shocked if the Mets did offer the 4th year and he signed with the Dodgers for 3 years.
Oh yeah,
Then
that
yeah,
could have been.
then yeah, that I'd be shocked about that. But I don't know how you could be shocked when you didn't give a better offer. Like you can't be shocked by that. I'm sorry. Like you got what you deserved. You slapped him in the face with that offer you gave him, and it's his right to go to what's best for him and his family. Like I am not gonna be mad at Edwin about this. Like I'm sorry. I'm just simply not. Even though I said I slightly blame both parties, at the end of the day, it is Edwin's right to pick what team he wants to go to, and again, do what's best for him and his family. But if he took less money, that would have been a different story.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean this too. That Diaz did give the Mets a chance. He opted out. That should have alerted Stearns to up the ante, 100%. And I think all of us knew going into this thing too. All of us knew it was really going to come down to are the Mets willing to give enough term? We've said this for weeks now, but originally our thought was it was going to be the difference between 4 or 5 years. The fact that it came down to 3 or 4 years, that's where I'm pissed off because 5 years, like we said earlier, we would have done it either way, but it's a little more understandable, slightly. But the difference between 3 and 4 years, come on.
Yeah.
That's where it's like we knew this going into it. It was going to have to be that way. And the fact that they refused to is just frustrating is an understatement.
But even then, like I don't, and I know some people are maybe a little disappointed in Edwin that he didn't take it back. I don't blame him. Like
No.
again, like you should have just went the fourth year right away.
Yeah.
So
That's the
and
thing. Like they slapped him in the face. And sorry to cut you off. They slapped him in the face with this offer that what does he owe the Mets at this point to circle back and give them a chance to go higher unless they were willing to like blow them out of the water? Because if they were willing to go higher and he didn't sign it, that tells me they were barely willing to go higher than what they offered. That tells me they were willing to match it or go like slightly over. And if that's the case, you slap Diaz in the face, and I don't blame him then for wanting to go to a team that won back-to-back World Series. And on top of that, again, probably better for him and his family to live out in LA instead of living in New York. I can't sit here and blame him for that one. So, yeah, that's the thing. He owes them nothing. And you give it a reasonable offer off the rip, maybe he is more inclined to circle back to you. But the fact that they weren't, that's
yeah,
where again I can't get mad at Edwin. I just can't.
I don't blame him for not going back to the Mets because again, like just look at the situation. You either have the Mets, where okay, you had your best years there with the Mets, but you know the Dodgers are willing to give you a very similar offer, and they're coming off back-to-back World Series appearances. Like I'm sorry, like again, and I'm a Mets fan, but I have to not be biased and not look at this through orange and blue tinted glasses and say, okay, when you compare the situation side by side, and I'm pretty much getting equal contracts. Yeah, I'm going to LA, especially considering like okay, like the weather's a lot better there. Again, they're coming off back-to-back World Series appearances, or not even appearances, back-to-back World Series wins, and the fact that LA, it's a very Spanish heavy city as well, so that
Yeah.
fits well to more with his family and his lifestyle. So I can't blame him. The Mets should have and or they should have been more prepared and saw this as more of a possibility that okay, Diaz maybe would have went 3 years elsewhere, especially when it's a team like the Dodgers per se. Like I said, they should have offered him the fourth year from the start. They chose not to, and now they're paying the consequences. And like I said, can they bounce back from this? Can they still build a good bullpen? Can they still build a good team? Sure, they can, but they have to go out there and prove it. And it's going to be a lot harder now. But again, that's not my job. That's David Stearns' job, and he needs to go out there and do that. And if not, then there will be discussion to be had about David Stearns and his job security.
And again, the biggest thing is you gave Devin Williams 3 years. Like I can't stress that enough. You gave Devin Williams 3 years off of a down year, but you couldn't give the most consistent closer in the game outside of that one rough season he had in 2019. You couldn't give him at all some extra security. Like, come on. It's just it's so garbage. It's and the thing is, like, what do you think Suarez is gonna want? Like, Suarez is gonna probably want 3 years also. Because this is probably his last contract. Is Suarez taking a 1 or 2 year deal? Is Fairbanks taking 1 or 2 years? Because if those guys signed for 3 years and they weren't willing to go an extra year for Diaz, then I'm just going to be even more annoyed. Because how do you go 3 years on Devin Williams and then Suarez and Fairbanks as well, but you don't give Edwin a fourth year?
The
And
only way, and Fairbanks is a little bit different because of his age. Let me just pull it up. I don't want a fucking Alaska Fairbanks. I want Pete Fairbanks. Yeah, Fairbanks is 31, so same age as Edwin. And he's gonna be 32 in a couple days because December 16th is his birthday. But Suarez is 34 years old. The only way I see them offering Suarez a 3-year deal is if it's the AAV is a lot less. Like that's the only way. With Fairbanks, I could maybe see them offering, but even then, like like because he's going to be 32 as well in a couple days. Like to me, I and again, I don't know what Suarez and Fairbanks' expectation is for contract wise, but it has to be. I mean, well, it is. It's going to be less than what Diaz signed for because Diaz is the best closer on the market. So I don't know. I don't know. With Fair, I mean, with Fairbanks, I at least I see the possibility that he'd be open to sign for 2 years. Obviously, like you said with Suarez, it's going to be his last big term, his last big time deal. So I don't know what he's exactly looking for in terms of years. But if he was looking for more than 4 years, or like more than 3 years, if he was looking for 4 years, I mean, I would imagine his leverage just dropped a lot because of what Diaz signed for. So I don't exactly know what that type of offer is going to look like to either. Like I said, Fairbanks, I expect 2 year deal if the Mets sign him. With Suarez, I don't know what he wants because I'm sure he was looking for 3 to 4 years, or maybe even more if a team was willing to go out there and, like, let's say give him a 5 year deal. But with Diaz now signed for 3 years, his leverage pretty much just goes all out the window in terms of the years that he wanted because of his age. He's 34 years old, and he's going to be 35 on opening day because March 1st is his birthday. So, like I said, if I would imagine that if they sign Suarez or Fairbanks, it's going to be to a 2 year deal.
I mean, it better be because then again, this makes it more inexcusable. The only thing to counter what you said about how maybe it dropped is Devin Williams got three
That's
years. So
true.
like the Mets
Yeah, I don't
urinated
know.
all over themselves, no matter how you slice the situation. Like that's really what the takeaway is here is that they pissed on themselves. Not even pissed on themselves. They pissed on themselves and shit their pants at the same time. Like that's what it comes down to. Um, I want to get more comments as well. The fifth year should have been thought of as a bonus year for both player and team. If they wanted the player, he plays. If not, get paid and thank you for your services. I mean, yeah, yeah, and he did owe them nothing. What happens if Pete signs in Boston for 3 years? I need to see the AAV at that case, but I could tell you right now, if the AAV isn't that high and he signs for 3 years in Boston, then again, another inexcusable, more inexcusable work there by Stearns. But we'll see before we talk about that becoming a reality. Stearns is terrible in negotiations. He lowballs people and they get pissed off and sign somewhere else. At least they will win. Diaz had a 1.63 ERA and got only 6 mil more than Devin, who had a 4.69, which again, I know under the hood stuff with Williams, but like, yeah, I mean, that's the other point is that the dollar difference between Williams and Diaz was just not even that much. It's just so frustrating. Um, I mean, Diaz is probably going to keep the walkout. How do you get rid of
Yeah,
the
no.
trumpets? That's your identity. And my God, it's going to hurt seeing those videos of him in Dodger Stadium, freaking walking out to the trumpets while we get Brooks Raley's Patriot music.
God bless America.
Diaz took Mets deal to LA and they added 3 mil, and Diaz reportedly didn't go back to the Mets to sign. This was all about how many years the Mets would go, and they didn't budge off 3 years. Yep, that's exactly it, and that's why we said off the rip they should have gone the 4 years, or when they should have gone the 4 years if they did. If Diaz did circle back, they should have went to the fourth year at that point. And again, it doesn't seem like they did because I guarantee you the fourth year keeps him. But I don't know if I really have much else to say or add about this because I'm just kind of like a dog chasing its tail talking about this. Um, all I could say is that there's no justifying this from the Mets perspective. And, if you're a Dodger fan watching this drinking the Mets tears, or just want to hear a Mets fan perspective about Edwin, you guys got a freaking great one. You got the best closer in the game. And an electric walkout as well, and enjoy it. Enjoy every bit of it. Enjoy back-to-back rings, plus getting now the best closer in the game. If we're talking about this from a Mets perspective, all we could do is it's hard to do it right now at this moment, but just freaking send a prayer and hope by some Christmas miracle the Mets find a way to be a better team out of this, which it's not definitely not going to be easy. I could tell you that for free, but to have our control, and it's legit all we could do at this point.
Yeah. Like I said, just final statements. This sucks. Wishing Diaz all the best in LA because I have no ill will towards him. I loved watching him on the mound, except for maybe parts of 2019, but that was just because he was just that bad. But other than that, from 2020 to last year, the guy was simply incredible, especially, seeing there and, being there live for like his years in 2022. So, like, again, like, thank you to Edwin Diaz for everything he's done for this organization, for this franchise. I'm sorry that we didn't, want to keep you more, but again, that's not up to me. That's not up to both of us. That's not up to the fan base. If it was up to us, we would have gave you at least a better deal in terms of year wise. It is what it is. But yeah, I mean, listen, for the Mets wise, you got to go out and improve the team elsewhere. Like, I get it. Okay, you're not going to replace Diaz 1-for-1, but I expect a deeper bullpen, and I expect that money to be reinvested elsewhere in the team. Whether that's through offense or whether that's through starting pitching, I don't care. You need to reinvest that money. And at least from Steve Cohen's point of view, I anticipate that he's willing to reinvest that money elsewhere. Now it's down to David Stearns where he chooses to spend that money, because that's cool. Spending money is cool, but if you don't spend it the right way and you spend it on poor players, then you're going to get poor results. But yeah, I hope at least by the end of the winter meetings we sign either one of Suarez or Pete Fairbanks, and I hope we trade for Trevor McGill, because that is at least the only way I'm going to feel a little bit better about this bullpen going to next year. If we, if you subtract Diaz and at least you add one of Suarez, Fairbanks, plus trading for McGill, and even then, it's still not going to be the same as Diaz. But like I said, you hope that the deeper bullpen works a bit better than just shelling all your money towards one player. But I think that's maybe just me coping more than it being realistic. But like I said, can the Mets be a better team next year? Sure, they can. It's going to be a lot harder though, and the work starts now, I guess. But yeah, guys, thank you guys for everything. It's been a great stream, and hopefully, maybe within maybe later tonight, maybe within a day or two, maybe we get some better news about the Mets signing another player, and we'll feel a little bit better, and we can have a bit more of a happier stream. But for now, this does suck. I'm not gonna, beat around the bush. It does suck.
Yep. And with that said, we're gonna wrap things up here. If only I queued like a sad version of Narco to exit the show here. But thank you everyone for tuning in and watching, mourning with us. And again, if you're a Dodger fan, I'm sure you enjoyed the tears, and I'm sure that you're gonna enjoy watching Edwin pitch as much as we did as Met fans. Thank you everyone though for tuning in. Leave a like if you did enjoy the show. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. We go live, of course, during breaking news. We go live for the podcast as well, which I don't know when the next one's going to be, because usually it is Tuesdays, but this kind of like filled the void for the show. So nonetheless, we'll figure stuff like that out. Thank you everyone though for tuning in and watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.